Hello, my name is Miguel Coronado III. I go by Mike086 on most social media and art forums. I'm a concept artist and illustrator living in London. I've been working in the video game industry now for about 9 years. Through my studio job and my freelance, I've been able to work with clients such as FX, Framestore, Disney, Square Enix, Fantasy Flight, and Apple. This video is broken into 2 parts. The video you are watching is a basic demo of how I draw a vampire. This covers the basic process I use when drawing and sketching. The second part of the video, we go into more of a design mentality, and we sketch out options for an original vampire design. If you're looking for more fundamental breakdowns of how to draw, I can recommend Forrest Immel's tutorial series. He has a Gumroad for about $5 a piece, and they cover the very basics. Okay, so let's get into this thing. All you'll need is a pencil, paper, and an eraser. There he is. That's the vampire we'll be drawing today. Okay, we're starting off simply with the cranium shape. That shape you see me drawing there is the side of the head. It's basically a flat plane that will be where we put the ear. That center line is me dividing the head into 2 halves, and then that's the brow line. From the brow line I build down the nose. You'll see me kind of pausing every now and then. When I recorded this video, I was just like watching TV and sketching, so every now and then I kind of get distracted. But here, that folded paper kind of shape is kind of like imagine like a folded hot dog or like a rectangle. That kind of represents where the eye sockets are. And then I come down with like a pyramidal shape to block in the nose. All these lines that I'm making, they look dark on camera because I kind of had to adjust the levels, but you should really be barely touching the paper with your pencil at this point. The cross on the side of the head, that represents where the ear goes. You're basically dividing that spherical shape in half, and then you're kind of bringing down the jawline. This is based slightly off to the Loomis head and Espen Lash's head construction technique. I'll link all those in the videos. Well, they're not going to be linked, but I'll show you them in the videos. Okay, so we start blocking in the landmarks. End of the cheekbone, the zygomatic arch. Start blocking in the eyeball shape. I'm basically just putting in landmarks for later. We're basically just drawing a skull right now. Most of this tutorial is just the basic head construction because, drawing a vampire is drawing a man or a woman or person, and basically you need to learn how to draw a person in order to draw a vampire. And these are kind of the techniques I use if I'm warming up or if I'm trying to really match a specific structure with like facial landmarks. And if I'm trying to show someone how to draw, this is how I do it. I would show you the basics of how to construct the head. So all these lines, keep them light, keep them pencil barely touching the paper, and then you're basically going to just get the entire construction out of the way. You want all the scaffolding for what you're building to be in place. So think of this as like, if you're building a house, this is the framework. You have to have that framework in there in order to put the roof on, finish the walls, paint the walls. And then, so right about now, I haven't finished the bottom of the lower jaw, but I'm just starting to indicate some of the tertiary points and kind of blocking out the overall nose shape, a little bit of the eyelids. There's no completely right or wrong way to do this. I mean, if you feel like it, you could just jump into drawing an eyeball. Lots of people do that. But if you're really trying to plan out a proper image, you need to start big and then work your way down to the small. So keeping it large to small will help you structure your image better, and also focus on the larger read that you're getting from the image. I'm indicating, some of the details now. This is me kind of having fun. I've drawn hundreds of vampires in my life, hundreds of zombies. So this is just me kind of going with what I know. The design I've chosen here is just like this kind of typical Nosferatu looking guy. He's bald head, buck teeth. There's nothing crazy design wise going on here, and that's kind of not the point to this portion of the video. I'm just trying to show you how to draw something fun. Indicating the teeth here, I'm not going to have his mouth all the way open, so I'm just going to have his teeth kind of like peeking out from above his lower lip. Okay, now I'm deciding on that jawline and how I want to portray it. I got a little indication where the chin goes, lower lip, and then kind of this fold of the upper lip, this little crease where the mouth opening is. And then you'll see me start going around the image, darkening parts with my pencil. That's just to kind of commit the visual. So that's the zygomatic, basically the cheekbone. And then I always like putting there's these two brow creases in some people's craniums. It's more prominent in some people than others, but like the brow muscles kind of form these like little lumps, and then you've got this like smooth area that it's more like the skin is tighter to the bone, and I like to indicate that in some of my monsters. An ear, that cross that we made earlier, that kind of is where the ear lands. For the normal human ear, you'd keep it underneath that cross line, but since we're making a vampire guy, the ear's coming well above the cross line. I'm trying to still keep it somewhat proportional to his head. Starting to get into some of the details, indicating his his eye looking. I'm trying to just give him this stare, like he's looking over to us, like we walked in on him and he's just like, "Who are you?" Something real basic. Like I said, this is nothing to cry home about in terms of design, but it's fun to draw, and it's kind of a drawing like this is kind of like a warm-up piece for me. I would draw this just to kind of like get my head into the drawing space and like get the basic ideas out. It's always good to maybe sometimes draw out the first thing that comes to your mind, get it out of your head as fast as you can. That way you can focus on some more newer ideas. We'll talk more about that in the second part of this video, but for the sake of this video, we're having a fun vampire drawing moment. I'm indicating some kind of collar. I'm thinking something with fur. At the time of this video, I hadn't seen the new Nosferatu yet, but I knew he had some kind of fur-lined jacket, so I was like, oh, maybe it'd be cool to give him like a fur collar. Yeah, that could be kind of fun. Pausing because I'm watching TV. That's why my hand stopped moving. I'm not like thinking hard about the design or anything. Let me get back into it. Back of the head. Give him some kind of turkey neck. I'm just trying to make him look unconventionally attractive. Unconventionally attractive? No. I'm trying to make him look conventionally unattractive. So he's just doing things that people consider unattractive and putting it onto him. Kind of like a hanging old man neck. Indicated more of the collar. This little side of the head ridge on certain people, the temple. I like throwing that on some of my monsters. It's sometimes I gotta be careful about doing that because it makes all the monsters look the same. So you want some variety though. But for the sake of this drawing, I'm throwing it on there. Kind of throwing in all the bells and whistles of what I like to draw on this sketch. Now I'm going in and darkening the features. I'm basically cementing in those decisions I made earlier by pressing a little harder with a pencil and just darkening in the line. This is the kind of sketch that I would present, like, in terms of quality of the sketch, this is the kind of sketch I'd present to a client if they told me I want like a generic vampire and I was sketching it out for them. This is kind of like the level of finish I would bring onto the sketch. It's not the kind of drawing I would do if I wanted to present a really beautiful drawing to somebody as like a gift. If that was the case, I would be a lot more deliberate with my mark making, and I would be shading in the lighting a lot more realistically. I'm kind of doing a loose indication of lighting. Right here I'm blocking in the shadow shapes, but I'm not trying to make this like a photorealistic rendering. If I was going to go that route, I would be much lighter with the pencil, and I wouldn't start darkening anything until I really was confident about those shadow shapes. Then I would begin shading in everything at the same tone. And you'd want to shade all the shadow shapes in at the exact same dark tone evenly across the board. And then you go back in with an eraser and start lifting out some of the bounce light. That's some more advanced kind of like graphite technique, which we're not really covering here in this video. I mean, I'm talking to you about it now, but we're not doing it in the video. I'm just kind of casually sketching here. But the kind of sketch I'm doing here is the kind of thing I would show a client if somebody was like, I want like a really basic Nosferatu. I would show them like this kind of sketching as an option. I'd be like this, you know. And from the video runtime, this took me about 20 minutes to draw. So about a 20-minute sketch is like pretty reasonable. If you're spending all day drawing, 20 minutes to clean up a sketch to make it look pretty presentable is nice. It's a good time to devote. Some people would think that's too long. Some people might think it's not long enough. In terms of like professional working environment, I'm going to cover a lot more of that in the second part of the video because we have more time to talk. But I would say 20 minutes on finishing a sketch to make it look nice and presentable isn't out of the question, especially if you've got like some serious characters you're designing. Like if this was like the main villain of our game, you want to kind of present your ideas as clearly as possible, and a little more polish on the sketch phase will pay off later when you're having to render it. I'm just indicating some of the facial features here. There's that little fold near the nostril where the kind of the cheek fat is and the cheek muscle is. I'm giving him kind of just like a funny look. Like he's kind of a funny looking vampire. I'm just giving him a creepy man look. He's got the big brows like the Nosferatu from the original 1920s film. And now I'm starting to shade in all the shadows. Oh, it's actually right here what I'm doing is I'm darkening the contour, the outer contour of the drawing. That's just a way for me to like reinforce the overall shape that you're seeing. I'm trying to like focus on the silhouette of the shape. He's not going to be drawn in silhouette, but sometimes darkening that outer line helps sell your silhouette, especially if you're sketching with pencil. It's just something lots of designers and concept artists will do. And I'm kind of combining techniques here. Like I said, this isn't necessarily a finished illustration I would give to somebody as a gift. This is like just kind of like a fun sketch that I would do for myself, or this is like a kind of a polished sketch I would send off to a client, assuming there was more steps in the process. My hand's covering what I'm doing. I'm detailing the eye is what I'm doing. So I went in and did like the pupil and outlined the iris a little bit. Those eyes, I give all these characters I draw those eyes. That comes from me growing up reading Naruto. The artist from Naruto, is it Kishimoto? He draws eyes like that. They have big dark iris rings and then little pupils, and all the characters have that kind of eye. And I drew so many like Naruto characters growing up that my shorthand for drawing eyes is to do his style. And it's something I still do. I like the way it looks, but I mean, if the character needs dark eye, if they have dark eyes, it doesn't look good. But if you're trying to give the character like these like crazy light eyes or like a white eye, it works well. Outlining the teeth, getting the gums in. I would pay more attention to the direction of my shading if this was going to be like if this was supposed to be like an illustration that I was just like gifting to somebody. If the final product was this illustration, I would really consider the directions of my mark making more so than I am currently. I'm generally considering the directions of my mark making. I've got a general idea of like we're kind of like wrapping the lines around the shapes, but I would really be planning out how the marks wrap around the head more so if I had planned to make this like a beautiful pencil illustration that was supposed to be going somewhere, like if the final image was that. I keep coming back to that just to remind you that this is supposed to be just like a fun vampire sketch that's not necessarily teaching you how to do like a beautiful finished commission in pencil. At least in that, from what I've seen, like the kind of commissions I've seen people do, they're much cleaner than this. But this is like a fun sketch you could like have in your sketchbook, show your friends, show your family. It gets an idea out there. It's teaching you the basics of the head construction. Indicating the ear. I've studied like vampire bats a lot in the past because this isn't my first time drawing a vampire. So I'm kind of indicating the vampire bat ear with the marks I'm making there. And that just comes from it's not like an amazing ear, but like in terms of what I'm throwing in there, I know what to do from memory. If you've never drawn a vampire before and you're like, I want to make them like kind of bat-like, I would suggest you pull up images of bats and reference specifically the vampire bat, because bats look very different across their species. But you can pull up those references to help you and guide you along the way. Here's the main toning stage. Like I said, I'm following the shapes of the head loosely. I'm trying not to leave anything pure white. I save pure white for like the glare in the eye or the shine on the teeth. That would be where I put pure white. So think of the white of the paper as another value in your drawing that you can use. So he's going to be completely shaded by the time we're done here. Well, to a degree. He's going to be completely shaded to kind of represent his skin tone, because he's not like a glowing light bulb. If he was like a glowing man, then of course I would make him like pure white with the paper. But we're trying not to indicate that he's like fluorescent. Shading in the darkest parts of the collar. I'm making these really graphic just for the sake of the read. visual read, and I think I want to bring this sketch to a nice place by the end of this video. A nice presentable place where you can kind of tell what's going on, and then you just get an understanding of what's happening here. More tone along the forms. I'll explain more of what I'm talking about in part 2 of this video series. Part 2 will be digitally painting, but I'll talk about painting with the forms a little bit more in real time. Darkening some of the wrinkles. And I didn't go over the tools I'm using. I'll go over that in the second part of the video. For the sake of following along, you just need a pencil and paper. And, you know, that's all you need. Pencil, paper, maybe an eraser. As you can tell, I don't think we've erased anything in this video so far. I don't think I erased anything in this sketch. We just kind of we just darkened the lines on top of the lighter lines. So all the lighter lines just became kind of absorbed by the tones of the lines on top. But if you were like trying to make this like a more refined illustration, you might erase those construction lines so that you just have pure tones. And I'm just going through adding in some texture for this fur collar. I'm not going to spend too much time on the fur collar. I'm just kind of indicating that it could be fur. We're going to call this portrait done soon, but those initial lines I made were basically like I said, like my construction for the shape, and these little squiggles, these are like kind of the details of the shapes. Darkening where the shadow goes, adding some more tonal variation. We're kind of just taking some different cross-hatching techniques and applying them to this drawing. It's really rough in terms of like the tones I laid in on here. It's not like planned out. And I think if you're really trying to make like a beautifully hatched drawing, you really plan out like what direction your lines go from the beginning, so that you've got a nice flow with the tone. And lots of like old masters that do like etching work, they have a really great flow with like the shadow tones and the lines that are made. Like Gustave Doré. Am I saying that right? You have to look him up. He does those etchings. Doré? Maybe Doré. The lines I put here are probably the grossest lines in this whole drawing, because they have no flow with the fur. This is like a fur coat, right? So like technically the fur coat should have like bits of fluff going off to the side, and then I like make these nasty these nasty perpendicular lines, and then I come back and start doing these like complementary like slanted horizontal lines, which go a lot more with the fur. So it's just like, I would never recommend this kind of sketching for like a final, like if I was trying to render fur and make it look like fur, I'm doing a terrible job at it. But it's adding tone, and it's just completing this basic sketch the way I want to. So like, let's say you were going to turn this into like a masterful illustration of a vampire head after this go. This would be like your study. You know, this is like your study sketch that you practice your drawing first, get the design down, and then you would go back in and spend like an entire day or 3 days drawing the head, you know, and you make it look nice. But there we go. I think I'm showing it off now at the end here. Okay, that's it. That's the vampire that we drew. it's a fun vampire for you to show your friends and family. Hope maybe you picked up some basic techniques. If you followed along with the video, you should have something similar to this. Your proportions might be a little off. Your overall shapes might be a little wonky, but all that stuff can get fine-tuned with more practice. Let's move on to the second part of this video where we design a vampire from scratch.